Hello and welcome to Property News Update. My guest is Kieran Clair from Bricks and Mortar Media. G'day Kieran, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks Kevin. I was just noting how very casual we both look today, which is nice. I'm comfortable.
We live in a beautiful part of the world. Why wouldn't you be casual?
I know, exactly.
Hey, let's have a look at what we're going to cover for you today in the show. Where is the property clock? It's all over the place. Avoiding scammers. I love a scammer story. Where have all the houses gone? We're going to go to New Zealand for that story. Australia is right up there as the most as one of the most least affordable markets. And we couldn't have a show without a little bit of real estate porn. All that and more with Kieran Clair. I'll be back in just a moment.
Pat Cummins, leading wicket-taker 2019 Ashes, loves playing at Lord's, near trendy Camden in London. And if you love trendy Camden, Pat, then you should move to trendy Fitzroy, Melbourne, featuring sleek warehouse conversions, a median price of $1.3 million, and a funky dash of independent bohemian spirit. Just like you, Pat. Ooh, there's your domain property alert.
Back with the Property News Update. My guest Kieran Clair from Bricks and Mortar Media. G'day, Kieran. I've already said hello to you, so we won't do it again. But our first...
I don't mind. Talk to me.
Our first story coming from Domain. Where is the property clock? This is a story from Kieran Todd White. They produce... Is it once a year they produce the clock?
No. It's they do a monthly report called Month in Review, and it's sort of somewhat... Interestingly or ironically, the February version of it is a kind of prediction of the year. So it's month in review, but it's the year ahead.
Well, they're predicting in our two biggest markets, Sydney and Melbourne, that things are going to go up. And even Melbourne, I was surprised to read the unit market there, they're predicting is going to be fairly steady at a time when we heard last year about an oversupply. So interesting.
It was interesting that they sort of talked about how 2019 was a tale of two markets, pretty dire start to the year and then things picking up afterwards. But who'd have thought that some of these cities would be in the position on the price clock that they are now 12 months ago?
Well, I can tell you 12 months ago, we were doing interviews in a number of our shows about how the Hobart market just had no more steam left. But I did read in the report from Kieran Todd White that they're saying it's still got a bit more juice left in that market.
Yeah, it's at sort of 9 o'clock, which is the well and truly rising section of it. It's a pretty handy tool, actually, the property clock. I mean, I know it's got a bit of arbitrary about it. It's just an opinion piece from HTW, but they're pretty well informed opinions, valuers from around the nation. And if you're an investor and keen to see in a very quick fashion where they feel markets are, then having a quick look at the clocks is a pretty tasty move. Poor old Darwin's still copping a hammering on it from the looks of it.
Tough market, Darwin. Yeah, certainly is. And you can see, if you use the link, click on the link in the story, and you'll be taken to the article in Domain, and you'll also see the two clocks, one for units and one for houses. So yeah, really interesting outlook on the year. A reminder that Real Estate Talk, the show, is out tomorrow. We're going to cover a number of stories, as we normally do, 5 or 6 different stories. One of them in particular is about ageing in the right place. An interesting story, this, Kieran. We picked up on it during the week, and it's all about the ageing population and how, if they're not getting prepared now, they're probably going to miss the boat, and come time when they do want to retire and maybe move out of that big house, they might have to do a lot of repairs to get it up to speed. So we talked to some people who've got some really good insight and knowledge on how you can prepare yourself and how far out you should be doing it. So that's an interesting... There's a lot of talk about ageing, whether people need to be going into lifestyle villages, or there's a high preference for people to stay in their own properties, even though...
Yeah, and not always practical, of course, but you don't... And I can't imagine you'd be wanting to get the sort of tail end of your working life or moving on to the next stage and having to find you've got to do a heap of work to those properties. But I guess we get settled. where we live and kind of let things flow as they may, and then all of a sudden you've got to dispose and do a bit of hard work to get the price going.
Yeah, well, you do. And speaking of that too, if you are looking at selling a property, I can tell you from practical experience, make sure you do some staging of your property. It makes a huge difference. Kieran, I think I said to you before we came on air that we're in the process, Carol and I, of selling one of our rentals, and we just went in, did some painting and put in new carpet and so on. And even the painters and who came back to do a bit of a touch-up said the furniture is just unbelievable. I walked into the house, literally, Kieran, the other day with Carolyn, and I said, hey, I could live here. This is quite amazing. And it was all to do with the staging. So it really is worth it, the small amount of money you spend.
Yeah. And a growing market too, mate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And they're getting so much better at it. Okay. Story number 2. This one comes to us from, by the way, Real Estate Talk out tomorrow, so don't miss it. That's what we were just talking about. Okay. Story number 2 from the West Australian, avoiding scammers. I love a scamming story. I said that at the opening, but it never ceases to surprise me how many people get stung by these scammers on things that you should really understand, and the areas in property around deposits and settlements, Kieran.
Yeah, how interesting that this one came through, because I was thinking about how this story talks about technology's changed the way that we do business in so many ways, but it's of course opened these gates for being taken advantage of. The man in the middle scam that the Department of Mines Industry Regulation and Safety were inspired to put out an alert on, where someone took a $70,000 deposit by faking the real estate agent's email address. And when you think about it, in a way, we kind of are very trusting about the idea that that if someone sends us an email, they are who they are. But transferring 70K, gee, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'd prefer to have a check and walk into the agency and give it to them. I just don't know that I deal. I'm just maybe a bit too archaic. I don't know, but I don't think I'd deal with that amount of money on the internet. But No. Even the interesting too with the scam story there, where they talk about almost the reverse scam, where people were transferring a deposit to an agent and then trying to call up before the funds cleared to get it returned to them so they could double their money. Obviously stop the funds clearing and walk away with the cash. Yeah, well, obviously you would think that's going into a trust account, and an agent should be smart enough to know they're never going to pay anything out of a trust account unless it's actually cleared funds. So, I guess the agent's in the chute for that one, that's for sure. Hey, story number 3. This one comes from one of our favourite sites, Stuff. I love the name of that. Love Stuff. Yeah, it's a New Zealand site, and not surprisingly, it's a New Zealand story. Where have all the houses gone? The listings in New Zealand up 7% December to January, but they are down almost 50% year on year. So a frustrating situation for buyers. Not being able to find the stock. That's going to put a lot of upward pressure on prices in that market as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they talk about those certain sections, and I'm going to have a go at saying some of the names, Kevin, because everyone needs a laugh every now and again. Wairarapa, you really should have had Nicola.
Yeah, you got that one right.
She's a Kiwi. She would have got this, Nicola. Taranaki.
Yeah, Taranaki's good. Yeah, you're doing well.
Thank you very much. Wait till I say Waikikamuka. But they were saying on the North Island, there's a bit of a turnaround in the market where it's picking up. Waikato, Manawatu, and Wanganui.
Waikato, not Waikato.
Good. I was so close.
Hey, it's interesting. I did a story the other day, and I even forget where it was. It might have been on this show. I can't remember. We were talking about a town in New Zealand, and I had to use it because I could actually pronounce it. It's called Ngaruawahia. I won't spell it for you because it's just nothing like what it sounds like. And the reason I remember is because when Carol and I were first married, I went across Carol's in New Zealand, of course, and went across to New Zealand and caught up with her parents. And her mum and dad picked us up at the airport. Long story, I'll cut it short. And on the way back to Taupo, no, they weren't living in Taupo, they were living in Turangi. And on the way down, you go through a small town, we had to fill up with fuel. And they had the name of the town on the service station. And it was like a mile long. But it actually said Ngaruawahia. And I asked Carolyn's father how to pronounce it. And I spent the entire time we were there trying to impress him by getting the pronunciation. And all these years later, I can still say it. So there you go. And a long story, but Narrawahia.
That's between New Zealand and Wales, I think it is. That'd be the
Yes.
two longest.
Yeah, I think I've got a photograph of us standing in front of the sign for that town in Wales.
Oh, dear. Okay, I'm not even going to try. I don't know the first letter of that one.
I wouldn't even attempt that one. But there you go. Hey, we're going to take a short break. Back in just a moment. I want to tell you about how affordable or not is property in Australia. And don't forget, look at the real estate porn. If you've got a cool 40 mil in your back pocket, we'll tell you where you can spend it. Back in just a minute.
Your business card is a vital selling tool and a constant visual reminder of who you are, what you do, and more importantly, how you can be contacted. Introducing our new Velvet business cards, featuring a luxurious premium laminate that has a velvet texture and is soft to the touch. Printed on a resilient 450 GSM card, these cards can be printed with a range of spot gloss and foiling options to give your office that prestigious look.
Welcome back to the show. Our story for number 4 comes from realestate.com.au. Australia's up there with the least affordable. At a global level, Australia continues to be one of the most, or one of the least affordable countries in the world, according to an annual demographia report. Hong Kong, most expensive, Kieran. And there's a reason for that, and that is the shortage of land, of course.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, you'd understand, I mean, a lot of people have been there and would understand how that works out. It's the analysis of this by Demographia is interesting too, where they've taken median price and divided by median income to come up with a ratio or a factor. And Hong Kong sits at about 28, so it takes 28 times the median income to buy a property from the looks of it. That's pretty tough.
Can you remember offhand what Australia was? It wasn't far behind.
I actually don't remember. I remembered Vancouver came in second, and it was pretty well up there near Hong Kong as well. I think Australia was a ways back. Sydney third, Melbourne fourth.
That's breaking down the cap cities, but the countries themselves, I think, is what we're. Yeah, Australia, and then Canada, China, and New Zealand. So, yeah, I was a bit surprised to see China up that high, but you know,
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I would say, and look, if I can just be a bit of a pedant about it at the moment, is that sometimes that measure of median income versus median value doesn't take into account level of borrowings, or if property prices have gone up dramatically, you know, people are holding more equity. You know, sometimes there's a big debate around how you measure affordability, isn't there?
Yeah, you're getting too technical now, mate.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, keep it light. Keep it light. You know,
let's go back to stuff.
Mate, we're not putting ourselves out there as the experts on affordability. That is for sure. But thank you for your input, mate. I do appreciate it. Hey, I want to take you to some real estate porn before we finish up. $40 million for this place. I'm going to play a video in just a moment. 3-story villa offering extensive sandy beachfront. This is what really attracted me to this. What a gorgeous looking home. Yeah, well, let's roll with the video and then we'll come back and have a quick chat about it. Here's the video. How good's that, Kieran? How good is that?
Pretty handy. I'm not wearing shoes there.
Oh, I know. It's just a spectacular beach, and you know, it doesn't. In the Cayman Islands, wow, nice little weekender. Got its own guest house, pool, and gym, which of course you'd expect, and a home theatre. But it's all about that outdoor swimming pool, the big one in front.
Absolutely. Cayman Islands might be a tax dodge, Kevin. Hey, there's two things, if I might play the cynic for a moment. Number one, I hope the footings are good because they're right on that sand there. You want to make sure.
Yeah, what about rising sea levels? You'd have to be worried, wouldn't you?
It's definitely oceanfront. And number two, harking back to our talk about staging, for $40 million, if you have a look at the picture they took of the kitchen, I want something a little more interesting than a couple of bananas hanging on a cup stand.
Yeah. I reckon the staging we did in our little place in Aspley is going to come up better than the staging in that one.
I have no doubt. Talk about property porn. A couple of bananas on a cup stand makes me raise my eyebrows.
Indeed. Hey mate, always great talking to my friend. Kieran Clair is from Bricks and Mortar. They generate a lot of our content and leads, and they write some tremendous stories. If you've got a business and you want to get some PR releases out there, the people to see. Bricks and Mortar Media. Hey Kieran, talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.